Hey folks, this is Soul, this is Warcraft Weekly, and I know y'all missed me because of a lack of videos throughout the whole week, so we're gonna get right into it. But first, if you don't mind, hit the like button, subscribe for more WoW coverage, and catch me live in the mornings on Twitch. Now, we should seriously talk about the login screen, but not really that seriously. This week's War Within beta build introduced the intro screen that had a lot of people talking the other week, personal takes as if they were objective reviews, countered by others being like, yeah, by the time you react, you already shot past through it, and you're looking at where more of the efforts were probably directed, the character select screen. I'd like to say that objectively there's less to look at on this screen than in previous expansions, and that in its current form it communicates less, such as like where we're going, and I think we can agree on that. What I found odd with this particular build is that they also added the intro music, which by the way isn't actually playing when loading the beta, and the track itself is uncharacteristically short. It's only clocking it at under 3 minutes when previous expansions intros ran closer to like 10 minutes. But let's break this down a little bit more. The first few minutes of the title screen's music is referred to as the Drums of War, and with each expansion it's been remixed to hit like a certain vibe with the audience. This is mixed with other renditions of tracks that are included in the expansion that are based on like character themes or zones and more. Also, based on the very short track included in this week's build, I'm going to conclude that the music by and large still isn't done, and that's par for the course. Music always comes towards the end of the beta cycle. I just find it kind of unusual that we got a very short version of the intro music, which probably fuels hopes from at least some that the intro screen will also be extended somehow. I gotta admit that as recently as the Dragonflight beta, we had an unfinished intro screen featuring the environment, but not the animation of Alexstrasza swooping down. As for me, I'm interested in the quote real intro screen, the character select, and there's no shortage of expectations out there that eventually maybe we'll be able to customize this screen with different layouts, maybe a different background of our favorite zones, and to be honest, if I could choose, I'd want like a ledge or some sort of elevation that's overlooking the battle for Lordaeron. Like there's something cool about like a massive melee going on behind selecting our champions. I want to hear your takes if Blizzard had learned from Dragonflight. It's common knowledge that there's going to be a max level campaign. Now I haven't done it myself, but according to a post from Mr. GM, accessing the 5th and final chapter requires a renown level of 4 with all 4 of the major factions. Now that got some gamers pissed, knowing that there's a renown gate. It brought back memories of Shadowlands and Dragonflight, with story being locked behind that system. Now there's no debating that it took a while to get to like renown 20 something or other with the Valdrakken Accord just to see what happens with the green Dragonflight. Meanwhile, newer players coming in like patch 10.1 were super confused trying to play through that storyline while chunks of the season 1 storyline was still a long grind away. But we also got to take you through how in the War Within it's going to be very different. Going through the motions of leveling the first time through, it's going to get us somewhere very, very close to Renown 4 with at least 3 of the factions. So far, I'm talking about doing the main quest line, a couple of side quests, killing some rares and treasures that you happen to run into, that sort of thing, like just natural playthrough. At max level, and when endgame activities become available, there's lots of rep that can be earned from those weeklies as well, and you'll notice that even more side quests open up when you're completing these zone storylines. Odds are pretty good that if you haven't already unlocked the War Within Pathfinder achievement either, you'll definitely complete it by now. Currently on the beta, the Severed Threads faction, the one in the 4th zone, it's all sorts of broken, but it's safe to guess that you'll be doing similar work there yourself. So if you're pushing, you're going to get through like the whole 11.0 campaign within the first weekly reset or so. There might be a time gate for that last chapter, but the takeaway for players coming in even later is a very brisk path through the main story with virtually no speed bumps. The difference isn't that it's just faster, but we shouldn't expect a feeling of repetition while progressing into something like story. Gamers define the grind across a spectrum. Some look at every obstacle that's standing between them and their goal as the grind. Others, like me, only look at more repetitive activities like, world quests and dailies and weeklies, even the churn of running a bunch of dungeons and raids as the grind. But as for campaign quests, there's a clear path with virtually no repetition other than, basically playing through the content once, just like Pathfinder in War Within. Speaking of, the other week I said that I wanted to go through the leveling content without flying to kind of prove a point, and I could say with total confidence that at least the first and second zones are very easy. There's one quest that has you travel across the first zone, but on the way you pick up a flight point that'll take you back when you're done. There's another quest in the second zone where players are supposed to fly around dropping leaflets, and I don't know, but when I hopped onto a skywriting mount, I automatically started getting credit towards completing the quest, even when standing still. I'm gonna guess that and other quests are being looked at for those cases where skywriting is involved, but there ought to be a workaround for accessibility. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any further than the second zone because of bugs, and we're gonna have to just come back to that another time. I just wanted to give you a small update. We're getting close enough to launch that it's time to move away from previews and to start producing profession guides to help you along in the War Within. The first part is going to be a primer to help you understand what's following us from Dragonflight, what's different, and it's going to be very important to soak up the knowledge from this first video. That way, when I dive into professions, you'll already have an idea what I'm talking about, and I don't have to repeat myself too much. For now, I want to drop a few small updates that happen in this particular beta build, and it's mostly good news. Concentration is being rebalanced. The resource that's used to bump up your finished crafts to a higher rank, it's been doubled from 500 to 1,000. More importantly though, concentration recharge rates have went up too. It's not twice as fast, but for example, concentration for blacksmiths, it recharges every 4.5 minutes, which is down from 5.5 in earlier builds. It's faster. I did say this is a rebalance though. While I haven't done super extensive research, it looks like concentration costs have also gone up. It's easy enough to tell because there are some costs that exceed 500, which is well beyond the cap that we had from earlier builds. For now though, I wouldn't consider this a cause for panic. Any reasonable crafter isn't going to put themselves in a situation where they blow more than half of their concentration on any single craft unless they're only crafting for their personal gear. I think the devs raised the cap and the recharge rate so they have a little bit more flexibility balancing the costs across all the professions. But here's some better news for all crafters. The NPC crafting order system was updated this week a little bit more to offer rewards from every auction, not just a select few. So let's take a look. There are a few different kinds of rewards I've seen so far. There's the spattering of gold, which I hope it gets looked at because it's super low. I've seen knowledge points and recipes. There's artisan's acuity, which is used to buy recipes, perform recrafts, and once you start getting them in excess, you can buy boxes full of resources. And then there's this artisan consortium's payout. It's a kind of loot bag that so far contains random low-ranked materials, but also these very cool finishing reagents that give boost to your skill level. I'm not sure if this is the only source to get these, but it's the first time that I've seen them appear in the beta. These will be important when trying to reduce concentration costs or even gold costs because a big enough boost will let you make a high-level craft with lower ranked materials, or possibly. It's pretty clear that NPC crafting orders aren't meant to be just a backup for low-pop servers, but a primary feature of how professions are going to work in the War Within. I joked a while back saying that, hey, you know what, maybe they should just add more profession quests that give skill ups, but the devs went all in with trying to make this feel more immersive, more natural, and they're on course for covering what was the biggest pain point of Dragonflight's professions. Normally, I don't talk much about the back and forth development of class balance, even though it's a pretty hot topic. Keeping up with that sort of stuff means riding the roller coaster of emotion like OMG, Demon Hunters abandoned in the beta. It's great for grifting the rage clicks, it's bad for my blood pressure. Me, I'd rather bottle up all my potential rage, pray that everything works out in the end, and then when the game comes up, you suck out that copium and game on. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about Demon Hunters, but I do want to talk about the new Shaman raid buff that we're getting and the Paladin buff that we're losing. In the beta, Shaman got a new ability called Sky Fury. It's replacing Wind Fury Totem, and it increases mastery by 2%, as well as give auto attacks a 20% chance to hit again. It's good for everyone and benefits melee probably more. Let's see how it works for hunters. I haven't tried it yet. Meanwhile, Retribution Aura is going away. It did this kind of mathy 30-second damage and healing buff when someone nearby took significant damage. Red Aura was always kind of iffy during its history, but I'm sad it's going away. I would have liked to have kept it somehow, but it brings me to the topic of raid buffs and our perceived dependence on it. For a while now, we've been in this generation of raid buffs and debuffs where a few classes, in some cases one class, can provide a benefit for the team because they are that class. At all player levels, in a way, it encourages diversity. In bleeding edge competitive content, it forces diversity and punishes non-diversity. And that's always been a loud topic among top players that does a little bit to influence player decisions at all levels, even if those decisions won't exactly make much of a difference. My team has a certain priority system when it comes to what class to bring to a raid. Number one priority is the class that they want to bring, followed by the class that they perform best at, followed by, oh my god, we definitely need to have like at least one warlock in the raid, and then finally, oh no, we're all melee and the encounter mechanics are going to break. So we never really have all the raid buffs, and we make up for it by, just trying to play better than what that missing int buff would have provided for us. Part of the progression game is about optimizing, but arguably the majority of the progression game is working with and who you've got. That's where we're at for now. Shaman already bring a lot of utility to the table and now have a bona fide raid buff. Ret Aura might be gone, and I don't know if anything can or should take its place. Like, maybe it doesn't need to be a DPS buff, but how about like a 3 to 5% healing taken buff? It sounds good without it being a must-have, but whatever the case, the discussion of buffs and raid comp has always been fun to have, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on what's happening to Shaman and Paladins and like just as like these buffs and raid buffs in general, and that's the show. Next week, I'm going to be going hard on professions. Like I said, I'm going to have guides to help you achieve success, or at least to avoid catastrophic failure. One video is on the way next week, and I'll probably be working on more throughout the week while streaming. You can, I guess, help out as I theory craft and make example builds, which of course ought to be fun. I hope you join me there, and so another huge thanks to the Twitch and Patreon family for being super good to me, and thank you, members of the Algorithm Squad. You made it to the end. Just don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.